Hello everyone, welcome back. This is Stefan on the French Cooking Academy. First off, thank you very much everyone. You've all signed up to my newsletter, or many of you, and it's great to see. And you will be receiving my videos by email, plus some big announcement that is coming pretty soon. I'm not saying too much, but if you haven't signed up yet, just please sign up because the announcement is going to be made by the newsletter. Okay, so back to the recipe of the day. Went to the fishmonger. And I thought we could do something a bit fishy today. And I've been inspired by these things. We call them coquilles Saint-Jacques. This is the shell of the scallops. So the scallops are here, I've got 4 of them. And when they're really in the wild, they actually live in there, and that's the shells. You got 2 of them and they're closed like that. And we're gonna recreate these little shells and make what we call in French the coquille de poisson, which is basically filling these shells with a special kind of veloute and a fish sauce with a sauce vin blanc, as we call it, the white wine sauce. And I'm going to use pieces of cod. I'm going to cut in pieces, mix it with the sauce, and just fill these shells with that mix, and then broil it in the oven and to get some nice coloring at the top. To go further, I'm going to create what we call a mariniere kind of garnish. Okay, so with these, I'm going to make a duxelle of mushroom, some clams cooked in a mariniere style to put all along, and decorate the whole lot maybe with some little pieces of puff pastry. So we're gonna make a bit of an escoffier style kind of garnish with all little fancy things. But the good thing, doesn't cost the earth. White wine, clams, okay, there's 4 scallops, piece of fish, a bit of puff pastry, some mushrooms, shallots, and we're done. So just pay attention today because there's quite a few techniques. So we'll take it slowly and we start now. Now, mise en place, and mise en place. I'm repeating this, is very important. Always make your mise en place before you start cooking. So all the ingredients will be listed in the video description, so you know exactly what you need. And the mise en place means you prepare and you weigh everything before you start. So I've weighed my butter, my flour, I've chopped my parsley, I've finished chopped and diced, my shallots. I've washed my clams, I've got my cream, the right amount, my piece of fish. And I've got the wine, I'm using a Muscadet wine. When you've got all this, then we're ready to start. Now for the hot side, the mise en place, I've got the pan I'm going to start using to make the roux at the ready, wooden spoon. And you're going to be needing as well half a liter of fish stock. I've got a video on how to do this. So I'll put a link on the screen and in the video description. Let's start by making the roux. Now for the roux, always the same, mix of flour, butter, equal amounts. So I'm using 30 grams of butter and 30 grams of flour. First step, of course, to put your butter in and wait until it's totally melted before we incorporate the flour. Okay, the butter is melted, all the flour goes in. And immediately take your spoon and you're going to incorporate the butter with the flour and create that paste. So this is what we see here, and that is the roux. We're going to leave this to cook for about 3 to 4 minutes maximum. Okay, after 3 or 4 minutes, as you can see, it's been cooking, still white. Turn the heat off, and we're gonna reserve this on the side. Now, why are we making the roux first? This is the thing that's gonna take the most time because it needs to cool down before we can use it. So by starting with the roux, it allows me to use that off time of the roux now cooling down on the side to be able to move on to the duxelle of mushroom. I really like doing the duxelle of mushroom, and I think that was one of Escoffier's really beloved thing, because in a lot of recipe actually you'll find a duxelle. So if you can afford doing it, it's simple and it really adds a great taste to a lot of sauces actually. So the first step always in the duxelle, melt the butter, and then we're going to add some shallots. Alright, so butter is ready, about a tablespoon of shallots, maybe a bit more, there's no real measurements. So medium heat. And just for 1 or 2 minutes, we're going to make these sweat to release their aromas and all this water contained in the shallot that's going to start to flavor our butter. Okay, we're ready to put mushrooms in. So reduction of mushrooms with butter and shallots. Okay, so from here we can add a little bit of seasoning, a bit of salt, hint of pepper, and mix well. And now we're going to wait until all the water, you see that all that excess of water evaporates until we get a pretty dry mushroom mix. It starts to smell good. This is actually when I start to get excited, when the good smell starts to reach my nose. I'm like, that's really start to be something. So the parsley, at the end, it's up to you how much you put, but we're gonna absorb some of the butter by putting the parsley in there. So the heat is off now. I'm just gonna leave this on the side again to cool down. And now for the veloute. So the first thing, you're gonna bring the fish stock to the boil. As soon as it reaches the boil, we're gonna start to incorporate it to the cold roux here without the heat on. So you just put a little bit first, and because the fumet is very hot, it's gonna start to dissolve the roux. And then we add more. Only once everything is in, we're gonna turn the heat on and start reducing our veloute. Okay, as we can see, it starts to boil. Immediately I'm gonna put my cream in. Up. Now, what needs to happen now is a big reduction, and that's with that recipe. We're doing a sauce, we're gonna try to really reduce it. So we're gonna reduce it by a quart. What I'm gonna put this on a side burner, low to medium heat, just maybe simmering, and we're gonna leave it to reduce. And while it's reducing, we're gonna make the clams. Now for the clams, very easy, little pan like this. Just gonna take some more shallots. So butter, shallot, mariniere style. We add a little bit of parsley in there. Okay. And when it's nice and melted, we're gonna add clams in. All right, it's chanting. Looks nice actually. Look at that. Bam, the clams. So I'm just giving you a small demo. You can take much more clams than that if you have many people, okay? And then dash of white wine. I'm using some Muscadet wine. Bring to the boil. And then I'm gonna cover it and let it cook for like 5 minutes just to steam them up. Okay, done. As you can see, it's pretty cooked. I'm gonna turn the heat off and leave this to cool down, and I'm gonna reserve the juices for the preparation at the end, for the veloute. And now for something a bit more fun. So the veloute is reducing, and that takes good 20-30 minutes. The clams are ready, and the duxelle is done. And now I wanted to make some little garnish we call the fleuron in French cooking. So I've got a roll of pre-roll butter puff pastry. And what we can do is use one of those, these food stackers, and basically try to, you can detail like circles, or like half moon, like this, all right? And then when they're done, you can still go on the inside a little bit. Okay, and you can get these kind of shapes like that. Usually these kind of little moons, and you can leave them like this. I'm gonna make a little, little shapes. It's up to you, and I'm gonna put these in the oven on that baking tray and let them grow in the oven as a little garnish to have with the sauce. Okay, so my fleurons are in the oven, and look at this guy. It starts to reduce nicely. So what are we gonna do here? I'm gonna take some of the juices from these beautiful clams I've got here and pour some of it in there, okay? On top of that, I'm gonna throw in my duxelle of mushroom. And that is gonna immediately give that massive punch of flavor in there. It's all in here, a little whisk, and we're gonna start to have something nice with intonations of fresh mushroom, parsley, white wine, salty water, clams. You get the idea? Sounds to be like a nice little starter made of seafood. Okay, so let's cook the fish, or pre-cook it. So we take a pan, always a little bit of butter in there, a little bit of shallots at the bottom, and then the fish fillet, so the bad side at the bottom. Seasoning, a bit of salt, a bit of pepper. After that, we're gonna add some fish stock again, 100 ml, and then some white wine. When you pour the white wine, don't put it on the fish because it can really sometimes burn it. So just enough, so about like, halfway. So this is gonna be just kind of poaching the fish. Now to cook fish this way, you have to be careful with the temperature. We don't want the whole mix to boil. So really medium low, about 90 degrees. And I'm not using a lid, I'm gonna use a paper like this, covered in butter, like a paper lid. to poach my fish. So I'm gonna keep that fatness over my fish and create that pocket of hot air inside in the boiling water, not the boiling, but the simmering water, so in wine and stock under until it's nicely steamed or poached. Okay, so this has been for 5 minutes, and as you can see, and it'll start to have some bubbles over here. It means it's at temperature heat off. I'm going to finish this in the oven for 5 or 6 minutes at about 180 degrees Celsius. So I'm going to take the whole pan in the oven. Alright, so the fish is in the oven, and this is the result of what we've made with the offcuts of puff pastry. So I'm just showing you a few styles, what I come up with. So these are the typical fleurons in French, and you can put them around, and a nice kind of half moon shape. This is the kind of the leaf came up with, and it looks like it's autumn at the moment, so for the theme is appropriate. That's what it looks like. Not great, but and this is more like the type of enclosed pie, fish pie kind of style. So this is, I've made the bottom, so I'm going to detach it, and we can use this if we want to serve it as a kind of a lid to keep the surprise inside. When people open, it's like, wow, you know, we're going to have like the pan-seared scallop and stuff like that. But we'll see this after. Our time is up for the fish. Let's have a look. So it's really quick, and we're just, and you see, and it starts to flake already. That's what we want. Just nicely, perfectly cooked, and it's been poached. There's not too much fat in there, so it's really good. And then we're gonna put this on top of our sauce and then do a little broil in the oven quickly. And that's it. We're gonna pan fry the scallops, and we're ready to set up the plate. Ready? Okay, so sauce is ready. Always do a little taste. It's nice and silky, it's nice balance. You can feel the mushrooms, not too much, but it is fishy. That's what we want. So now let's dress these things up. All right, so I've put these shells on some foil on here, and I just want to basically put a bed of sauce and then grab some of the fish and put it on top. So the fish is flaking. Yeah, so it's up to you how much you put in there. And it's got all these flavors of white wine, you know, fish stock and things like that. So I don't want to put too much. Okay. And if we want, before we put it in the oven, I just want to add a few little breadcrumb, and we'll try to put it in the under the broiler. Okay, that's how it looks like. I decided to put a bit more breadcrumbs on top. I'm going to put this in the oven just to broil, just to color this for 5 minutes, and then do the scallops and plate up. And there we have it. I've made my little presentation. I had to do it off camera because it was very, very messy with all these elements. But this is a little plate that I will be calling the coquille de poisson façon mariniere. So you got 3 things. You got the little clams in a mariniere style, pan-fried scallop, and of course here, and we've got our little special fish shell. So I can sprinkle. I like to put a bit of color, across. And if you want, you can do that kind of Bocuse style to hide the whole thing. You could put this on, you see, as a little surprise when it's steaming hot, and boom, you open it, and you got that in. All right, so let's have a little go. Let's have a little taste. Okay, so just get. Oh, look at that. It's creamy. Look at this. Oh, perfect. And you see these little things you've got here? What you can do, like this, and you bite into it. And it becomes your little dip in the veloute with the fresh pieces of flaky fish. Oh, the mixture of the puff pastry with the veloute and the fish is absolutely brilliant. Now before I go quickly, I'm going to try this one. Okay. That's much more mariniere, so much more the wine taste with the shallots. And of course, by the scallops, the scallops are always the same, nicely cooked. And if you want, of course, you can use the sauce from the fish. Yeah, that's the whole goal. Here is the pot where you can dip things in. And you enjoy a feast of seafood. Absolutely beautiful. So I hope you like it. And this is my presentation. It took a bit of time, but I really enjoyed it. And it tastes absolutely stunning. So if you have the time, I highly recommend it. Try that little recipe that I've called coquille de poisson façon marinière. Wow, that was quite a bit of a recipe today, quite technical. If you wanted some techniques, well, here you are. Now, as always, guys, if you want to make this recipe and you have any questions about it, just use the comment section. and tell me what you think about that recipe, or if you prefer to see some other recipe made of seafood. I always like to hear the feedback. As always, you can follow me on Instagram, French Cook Academy. Don't forget to sign up to the newsletter, and if you want, you can also become a patron on my Patreon page. And thank you to all patrons that support me, by the way. Many thanks. For me, I leave you with that picture, and I'll see you all next time for my next cooking video. Take care all, bye bye.